Hi, I just wanted to make a very quick video to show you the original SOOC for Learning website that we created. It's made in WordPress with an accessibility plugin. One of the limitations of using some of the free sites, which I did for this course, is that they're not that accessible. One of the things that we did was when you go across the tabs, most of the free sites don't allow people who use switches or any kind of a device to be able to access the lower elements. So that was a really big piece of what we did. Also, those sites don't allow for any kind of alt text. So just very quickly, we had the course introduction, and then we went through the component parts or some of the necessary aspects of what they were going to learn. And then we had each week. So we had kind of a similar format across each week with the resources available at the end. You'll notice that the design is fairly plain, and again, that's for accessibility and to keep it fairly straightforward for the learners as well, without a lot of extraneous images or those sorts of things that are distracting. So this is the new website, and what I created was a landing page. And the idea behind that was there would be more than one course or more than one SOOC eventually. So we have the UDL and apps, and then future courses are here. And what I've included on this page is really just an overview of the history, the design, the framework, and the research that I've put into this, as well as my two colleagues. So we have the history, and these are actually links that'll take you to it. History, the design principles, the framework that I'll add when that's complete, and again, the research, as well as a way to get in touch with us. We've also included the Creative Commons license here for people to use and share the design. So I'll go into UDL and apps. So this is the new website. And again, I've used Wix just because it's free, but eventually we take this back into WordPress. And it looks very similar in design, and it has the Creative Commons license for reuse. Under the course overview, we have the syllabus, and this is just an overview of what people are expected to do each week. Kept it very simple so that it's not confusing. And then there's a link to the Google Doc, so that people who want their own copy can get a copy of it. And then we also create a PDF. And I didn't do this because it is actually difficult to make an accessible PDF. So we make one with proper tags when the time comes. We also have the SOOC survey for people to take. And a couple of things here for accessibility. We have a description on the image. It's also a link. And then the link here is in text rather than the URL, so that the screen reader will read the words rather than a great big long web address. We also have the website tour and the Google Plus community, which we had before. And then based on feedback, I've added the Twitter information. So there's a couple of videos, and also for Hangouts. And when it comes time to doing the actual SOOC, we'd redo those because Google and Twitter are changing all the time. They get outdated very quickly, which for a new person, it's very disconcerting when it doesn't look like what they're looking at. So we'd create those just before we started the SOOC. You'll notice that I've added the assumptions and beliefs category. And the reason I did that was I wanted people right away to start thinking about their assumptions and beliefs, what they already know or don't know about UDL. And I thought it was a good way to introduce them to the community. So some people were a little bit intimidated by the quality of some of the things that were going up. So to get them just to write about and reflect from the get-go might be a nice way to introduce them to the community without the pressure of uploading something or creating something. Again, another limitation of Wix is that all of these images probably have tags on them that a screen reader would read. And so when we create the WordPress site, we'll remove those. What I did do was, rather than making these links, I made the text the link to make it easier to navigate. So just very, very simple information. It's short information about each of the assumptions and beliefs so that people who want a little bit of a brief overview will get that. Then we have the remaining 4 weeks, and those look fairly similar to what we had before, and that is we have an introduction with an essential question. And then you'll notice under the engagement, I actually added a little bit more information, and that was the specific guidelines underneath each principle so that people have those right away. So under the UDL overview, we have the webinar. And what we did was we shortened these, we made them more concise, we made them more visually interesting. We also put some questions here. And those questions kind of got lost in the last SOOC. So I'll talk a little bit later about what I would do with those to kind of bring them back into the reflective piece of the course. So here we have the video. We have the ability to watch it on YouTube. And we also have it in a transcript form. And then these are closed captioned as well. And what we found was a lot of people appreciated having the alternate formats, and it reinforced for them that this isn't just for people with visual impairments, but it actually helps you understand the material better. And someone actually said being able to read the transcripts really helped them. Then another piece we put in for adult learning was the idea that they could actually choose where they went into the video, and that is they could either, when they came back to review, or if they felt like they already knew a lot about learning and accessibility or whatever that was and wanted to just jump to the guidelines, they could do that as well. I added a column here on rethinking the guidelines, and that was because we spent a lot of time in the course kind of getting people to see that they needed to think in multiple ways, and they needed to think beyond just accessibility. And what's tended to happen in UDL is that people get stuck at this bottom part, providing accessibility, and because technology is so readily available, they sometimes think they are doing UDL because they've given students a computer. And so there's a video here of David Rose talking about how you need to look at the horizontal nature of the UDL guidelines. Then there's a reflection piece that I put in, and this is how I tried to bring in the essential questions that we included, the video questions, and in this week, the assumptions and beliefs. And that was that people are going to be able to go into the Google Plus community and talk a little bit about these, get people starting to converse a bit more, and then also use them as part of our Hangout and our Twitter chats. And I think that gives a little bit more direction to those and a purpose behind them. And maybe encouraging people once they've actually commented in the Google Plus to then think about extending that conversation when we move into a Hangout or a Twitter chat. I then have the tasks for each week, and these were just slightly altered, and what I did was I added a little bit more of a focus for higher ed because I saw a fair amount of higher ed people becoming interested in UDL and actually joining us. I included for each week an open education resource to make it more practical for people who really wanted something they could take away and use. And then, of course, the open choice for those who had something in particular that they wanted to focus on. So I just cleaned those up a little bit. And then I've added the week rubric, and of course that's not in yet, but what my intent is to create a product rubric to really help people see that they need to move into multiple means of representation, to not just use text. And it's a real growth process for them, but the rubric I think will help. And then I want to include a process rubric that I believe will stay the same across the 4 weeks, maybe with some tweaks based on whether they're doing engagement or representation. And again, to have them look at their process and be a little bit more reflective and guide them a little bit more. The only addition that we have is under the remaining 3 weeks, I added the tools. And again, I separated these out upon some of the information and the sharing that we got in the survey. And that was just to keep things in one place for people so that it became manageable. So when they think about, oh, what did I learn in the week representation? Oh, there are the tools for me. So these are all of the tools that are listed or mentioned in the webinar for that particular week. So again, we did the same here for the tools, for each one into action and expression. So those are just some of the changes that I've made and implemented based on doing the SOOC again, as well as the survey data that we collected. And if you'd like to do a hangout, let me know and we can talk about the website in a bit more detail.